Hi students, welcome to our new text that we're going to be reading this week. This is called Using Timelines, and our objective today is to listen and retell key ideas. Now, key ideas is a little bit different than key events or key details, and key ideas just means that they're important ideas or facts or things that you have learned from a text. These don't necessarily have to be retold in order, just for good practice, so we can stay in the practice of retelling things in order. I would like you to try to do that today. So when you retell the key ideas to a stuffy, a pet, or a human, try to do it in the order that you heard the key ideas in. Now, this is an informational text which tells us that the genre is nonfiction, which means that it is a true text. It means that it is real. It's teaching us about something. Sample features of what makes this a nonfiction informational text is that it has a table of contents. We have talked about how there are fictional texts, many fictional texts that have tables of contents. But this is, in first grade, known as a nonfiction text feature. Something else that tells us that this is a nonfiction informational text is the words to think about page that you are seeing here. And let's go ahead and go to the first page. We also see words that are in bold. Now, these words can most likely be found in the words to think about section, or they might be found in the glossary section, or maybe even in the index, which means that they are important words that you need to know, or they're important words that have to do with whatever the topic are about, which if that's the case, you would find them in the index, which would help you then find that topic in the text. Okay, so I am now going to read the text aloud to you. If you have gotten onto Clever, then you can actually go to your Clever account, check in the assignment section, and you can actually have the computer read you this story. If you want to listen to me read this story, then keep on playing this video. Here we go. Let's look at the words to think about section. The first word is event. Take a look at this illustration. It says, this event happened long ago. So they're using the word event in a sentence. An event is not just a detail of something that happened, it's an entire thing that happened. So let me give you an example that might make more sense to you. A birthday party is an event. Blowing out the candles on your cake is a detail of the event. Let's go to the next word, future. We will have this will we have this spaceship in the future? So again, using this word in a sentence, future means things that have not yet happened. So tomorrow is the future, hasn't happened yet. Let's go to the next word, historic. This log cabin is a historic building. Typically when something is considered historic, that means that something important happened in that place or in that area. It can also mean that it is from a certain period of time that is deemed being important. So perhaps this log cabin, something important happened there, or there's something about it that lets us know more about the time in which it was built. Let's go over here to page 3. The word illustrate. Drawings help you illustrate or show your thoughts. Illustrate is just another way to say draw, but it can also be to paint or other things. This next word is past. These horsemen lived in the past or long ago. So the past, they define it here. It was not necessarily long ago. I mean, the past was 5 minutes ago. It was yesterday. The past is something that's already happened. But I think many of us think of the past as something that's happened long ago. And the word timeline. We were introduced to a timeline last week. So a timeline shows when things happen. Introduction. A timeline shows events or special things that happen. A timeline also shows when these things happen. In this book, you will learn how to make and use timelines. Let's look at the photographs and the timeline that is helping us better understand the photographs. Let's start over here on page 4. It says 8 a.m., school begins. 10 a.m., recess. 11 a.m., computer time. 12 p.m., lunch. 1 p.m., story time. 3 p.m., school ends. Let's read the captions. This timeline shows what time things happen during a school day. What time is recess? Is story time before or after lunch? You can pause the video and try to answer that question with a stuffy, a pet, or a human. Chapter 1, a timeline of a week at school. Bella and Jay make a timeline of a week at school. First, they write each day of the week. Next, they write an event that happens on each day. Then, Bella and Jay use their list to make the timeline. Last, they draw pictures to illustrate their timeline. The pictures help show what the words mean. Let's go down to the photographs and illustrations. Instead of using times, like this timeline used, they're using days of the week. So they used Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So Monday, they drew an illustration of gym class. Tuesday, they used an illustration to show a field trip. Wednesday, they used an illustration that depicts the computer lab. Thursday, a spelling test. And Friday, firefighter Dana at school. Let's read the caption. This timeline shows days of the week. Let's take a look over here. It says, look at text structure, sequence of events. The author uses the word first to tell the order of or sequence in which events happen. What other words does the author use to tell the sequence of events? You can go back and listen to me read page 6 and 7 again to listen for words that the author uses to tell the sequence of events. Chapter 2, a timeline of the school year. Riley and Emma want to make a timeline of their school year. Some of the events have already happened. These events happened in the past. Some of the events have not yet happened. These events will happen in the future. Let's take a look at their timeline. It says September 6th, school starts. November 20th, Thanksgiving feast. December 15th, winter break starts. February 14th, Valentine's Day party. March 6th, field trip to zoo. April 29th, games day. May 29th, school ends. Let's read the captions. Miss Johnson helps Riley and Emma with their timeline. This timeline shows months and dates. Now let's go up here to the now it's your turn part. Make a timeline of your school year. Put at least 5 different things on your timeline. You're welcome to try that if you would like. Chapter 3, a timeline of the United States. This timeline shows events that happened in the past. You can see when each event happened in the United States. Was the Revolutionary War before or after the Civil War? Was George Washington president before or after astronauts landed on the moon? So we can use timelines to help us understand when certain events occurred in history. I'm going to go ahead and read this timeline to you. Before 1492, Native Americans lived in North America. Colonists settled at Jamestown in 1607. From 1775 to 1783, the British and the Americans fought the Revolutionary War. 1789, George Washington became the first president. 1861 to 1865, North and South fought the U.S. Civil War. In 1969, astronauts landed on the moon. Let's go down here and look at this box. Days, months, years. A timeline also can show days, months, or years. Chapter 4, a timeline of famous buildings. The timeline below shows historic buildings from around the world. The timeline shows when people built these buildings. The timeline starts with the oldest building. The timeline ends with the newest building. Which building is the oldest? Which building is the newest? I'm going to go ahead and read this timeline to you. Starting with about 4,500 years ago, the Great Pyramid in Egypt. About 2,500 years ago, the Great Wall of China. About 1,900 years ago, the Colosseum in Rome. About 800 years ago, Mesa Verde, Colorado. About 600 years ago, Machu Picchu, Peru. About 350 years ago, the Taj Mahal, India. Did you know the Great Wall of China is 8,850 kilometers long, also known as 5,500 miles long? Wow! The caption here says, this timeline shows years. Now you can go back and try to answer this question, which building is the oldest and which building is the newest, now that I've read the timeline to you. Conclusion. Remember, conclusion means like wrapping it up, the end. Timelines are a helpful tool. Timelines show when events happened. They help us understand our history over time. Let's take a look at these different timelines that we see here. Some timelines show hours, like this one, 2 p.m., come home from school, 3 p.m., take the dog for a walk, 6 p.m., eat dinner. Some timelines show days. Sunday, visit grandpa. Monday, go to the dentist. Tuesday, go to the zoo. Some timelines show months and dates. August 31st, first day of school. September 20th, parents' day at school. October 30th, Halloween party. And some timelines show years. 1948, grandma was born. 1952, Uncle Joe was born. 1981, mother was born. And here, friends, you are seeing the glossary and a description on how to make a timeline. Here's what I would like you to think about. There were a lot of key ideas, a lot of things that we learned throughout this entire text. I'd like you to take some time to share with a stuffy, a pet, or a human the many different kinds of timelines that you learned about and some of the important things that you learned about what timelines are used for. All right. Thank you for joining me for this video. I will catch you in another one.